Welcome, welcome everyone to LRA Live, presented by Republic National Distributing Company. I'm Wendy Warren, Vice President of Communications for the Louisiana Restaurant Association. LRA Live is designed to aid you in charting your next steps as we continue to navigate 2020 and beyond. We hope this information presented in this two-day series benefits you at a time when you need it the most. Remember to drink responsibly and make your next whiskey order a Jack Daniels. Take a look.
I've always wanted to do that.
I've mastered my role. We'll have one of everything. I always wanted to do this. I've always wanted to do that.
1, 2, 3.
I've always wanted to do that.
I always wanted to do that!
I always wanted to do that. Next round on me.
I'd like to also thank our event sponsor, Walk-Ons. This Louisiana-born concept was created by two former walk-ons on the LSU basketball team. The original location opened near the gates of Tiger Stadium in Baton Rouge and has grown to over 45 locations across 8 states in the Southeast. Walk-Ons is best known for its South Louisiana-inspired menu, Southern hospitality, all served up in a family-friendly sports environment. Come celebrate game day with a taste of Louisiana at Walk-Ons. Our LRA Live event chair is Scott Taylor, President and CEO of Walk-Ons, and we have a video.
This is a walk-on athlete. They push harder and put their heart into the game. This is the passion we're built on. It's why we put our heart into creating game day with a taste of Louisiana. Walk-ons, we live for this.
Great. Thanks, Wendy, and welcome, everybody. It's going to be a great session. So with us this morning is Gerry Fernandez, founder and president of the Multicultural Food Service and Hospitality Alliance. With over 35 years experience in the industry, Gerry has held leadership positions at the Waldorf Astoria, Hemingway Seafood Grill and Oyster Bar, Capitol Grill, and General Mills, where he got his start in diversity and inclusion work. This morning's session, engaging today's workforce with a cultural intelligence, is designed primarily for unit level and multi-unit managers to help employees. Franchisees and independent operators increase sales, reduce costs, and improve retention by learning to better engage multicultural employees. At Walk-Ons, we were looking to not just respond or post tweets, but to learn how we could embrace this opportunity in today's environment to create real change in our organization and hopefully be an example to others. We engaged with Gerry and his team as we look to create a diversity council made up of team members and managers of color to help guide us in this quest. The best practices shared in this workshop, when applied properly, can have significant impact on your bottom line. So super happy Gerry's here, and Gerry, take it away.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Scott, and thank you to the Louisiana Restaurant Association for having me. So let me share my screen, and then we'll get started by showing you. We'll take a walk down the cultural intelligence path. Hopefully everybody can see this. And why don't we begin with the beginning? That would be a really important place to start, right? So let's do this here. Let's go right to the start. All right, can you all see the screen? I assume you can. So engaging today's workforce with cultural intelligence is possible. It's doable and it's necessary. We all are going to have to figure out how to work with today's workforce. So the roadmap for today, for this short time that we have together, I'll tell you just a snapshot about MFHA. I'll skip it because Scott mentioned it already. The state of the nation, state of the workforce, the cultural intelligence solution, and how inclusive leadership traits can make all the difference. I'll summarize and then give you some action steps thereafter. So MFHA has been around since '96. We're an educational nonprofit. We advocate for the industry. So we are all about what's good for the restaurant, hospitality industry. We promote, this is a great career opportunity, encourage multicultural business development. We help with strategy and bring people together. Now, there's a 4-step process that we use. Is first, you must understand your own bias, your own blind spots. And so we encourage everyone to go through some level of unconscious bias training. If you can't do it with a company, go online and at least look at some of those videos. Next, you begin to understand the different cultural groups that occur in our restaurants, in our communities, in our country. You begin to build your cultural IQ. We all have our own IQ, but we can have a cultural IQ. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Later, you understand how that connects to the community so you can build community connections that drive traffic and attract talent. And ultimately, we all as an industry and as individual leaders need to get very good at leadership development of all people, of all stripes, regardless of the package God put them in. So what's going on today? What's happening in the country today? Well, we just finished an election, didn't we? And we found out that the country is very polarized. So the big challenge right now as companies come back to work is, what do we do with the people, with the team that lost, whoever that ends up being? They don't feel like they are in a partnership posture with people who are on the other side. So this is a real challenge. It's a real issue. The diversity and the multicultural makeup of the population is going to continue whether you like it or not, whether you're watching or not. How many of you have graying family members, older people in your family that you have to take care of? So disability issues become much more important. Millennials, Gen Z, they behave very differently than us boomers, okay? They want change now. They will pick up the phone and call the CEO or the owner of the restaurant, the franchisee, and tell them directly, I don't think we're doing enough to support Black Lives Matter or whatever the issue might be. So things are changing. And oh, by the way, yeah, we still have labor issues, don't we? So this slide indicates clearly that regardless of where you are on the spectrum, the white population is going to continue to shrink in terms of how fast it grows. And if we don't figure out how we're going to get Hispanic, Asian, Black, biracial, multicultural folks prepared to take leadership to run our restaurants, to run our hotels, to run our businesses effectively, we can't win because we're effectively running out of white guys. It used to just be white guys that did all this stuff. It's no longer just that, but we have to be serious about this. This isn't about left or right politics. This is about business. If we're going to be successful, we're going to have to figure out how to solve this problem. Very important. So let's look at our multicultural workforce. What does it look like today? Okay. Well, I start by defining what multicultural is. It's an adjective relating to a number of different cultures, especially traditions of people. So it could be religions, it can be race, it can be a variety of other things. But what it means to us in America now is it's many cultures versus just one. For a long time, when people came to America, it was like we were the melting pot. So leave your language behind, the Italians, the Germans, the European immigrants, forget your language. Don't teach it to your kids, become an American. Well, that's changed now. It used to be a soup, but now it's more like a salad bowl where everybody wants to be American, but they want to keep their cultural heritage. So that's different than what we've called American norm. It's different from who I am, maybe. And it's more immigrants and people of color, and you might not be that familiar with what that means. Now, it includes our white brothers and sisters, but it's not defined just by whites. So that's how you need to think about multicultural. It's all of us but it's really about how do we get other cultural groups to participate in the process. Now, in the restaurant industry, we're diverse. There's no doubt about that. We have lots of women, lots of Hispanics and Blacks and Asians and others. But what we find out is that the further you go up the food chain, so the higher you go in the organization, the more white, the more male, the more Christian it becomes. So if you're not in that group, you're the out group. And so if we can't find ways for people, regardless of the package God puts them in, can find ways to move up in the organization, and other industries do it better than us, we'll lose all of our good talent to other industries. And that's an issue that we're facing right now because our industry has been, image has taken a hit through the pandemic. There's questions about, have we managed the pandemic well? Have we opened restaurants and bars when we shouldn't have? Have we worn masks and been socially distancing? All these things are shaping our brand as an industry. And so a young person has to decide, do I want to go in that industry or not? Do I see people who look like me moving up in the organization or not? Because there are other options. So for today's session, I focused on African American because right now the focus in America is very much on Black America. And that's not going away just yet. Now, we know there are some people out there who would just as soon see this Black Lives Matter stuff pushed right off the main stage. You know, that same group wanted to get rid of Me Too when the focus was on women and how they have had disparate experiences in our country. Well, those things aren't going away. They're going to come back. And we will get beyond the pandemic. We will figure it out, as we've seen it already. They're beginning to come up with a solution. But these issues around the Black community with respect, equity, inclusion are foundational. When you communicate to Black America that you respect their right to want the same thing as anyone else, you understand why family's always been traditional to them, because you couldn't trust other people. They hold back personal information sometimes until they get to know you. And the big issue is social mobility. I came from a family, 6 kids. My dad died when I was 11. We was po, P-O. But we all went to college, and now we are po no more. We all got a college education. We earn more money than our parents did. That's not true for every household, but that's what it's about. And our industry is the best industry for taking people from the dish room to the boardroom. I started in the dish room, a knucklehead who got kicked out of school in high school, but look at me today. I've been around the world thanks to food service. Now, on the other side, we have our immigrant communities. You have a lot of people who are Thai and Vietnamese, and also Honduran. Those are different cultures. All three of those groups are very family oriented, but Vietnamese, much more willing to follow structural rules, okay? Who's at the top, much more hierarchical. Whereas Latin cultures are much more family, much more group oriented. And understanding those cultural groups, what drives their decision-making, will help you understand how to get the most out of your relationships. That you can't put them and force them to make a decision on values. Say, is this person better than that person? That doesn't work in Asian culture. They don't want to tell you no. They'd rather say maybe. Don't force them into those positions. You lose trust. Socioeconomic is really important. Obviously, some Chinese come here very well educated with money. Same with our Indian communities. Others not so. So immigration is a huge issue for everyone in this mix. And of course, the coronavirus is on everyone's mind. I mean, it's threatening us all. It's threatening our businesses. Blacks and Latinos over-index for getting the coronavirus and dying from it. If you're in Chicago, you're 6 times more likely to die from the coronavirus. Same in Washington, D.C., because there's high African-American populations. And structural race-based disparities are behind that. Blacks and low incomes, people tend to live in areas where there's more pollution. They have schools where there's lead paint. The water's tainted, lower access to education and healthcare, and consequently have more pre-existing conditions. All that is coming back to your restaurant. As people come back, There's the anxiety on their mind. I lost 4 family members to COVID-19. This is not a fun experience, as I'm sure some of you know, but all that angst, all that fear, when people come back, it comes with them. They bring that with them into the restaurant. And so as people reopening in states around the country, the issues of discrimination, and of course the political polarization, are they going to throw rocks at me or am I going to throw rocks at them? Physical threats, lots of stuff going on in restaurants where people will say, I'll take you outside. Safety from a health, is the restaurant clean? Can I get on the bus and not be impacted or infected? And again, workforce fairness. When we come back, will people want to not sit in my section because I'm Black or I'm Hispanic? And we're seeing that. People saying, I don't want that person serving me because they have the coronavirus. This all comes down to how do you build brand trust with communities of color? So I use Patrick Lencioni's 5 dysfunctions of a team because it's so important. It's like Maslow's theory of needs, hierarchy of needs. When people are at the low level and there's no trust, the conflict is going to be negative. So the whole foundation of this whole way around cultural intelligence is to build a foundation on trust. And when you begin to understand that bringing all these people together in the workplace isn't going to coalesce, they're not going to collaborate by themselves. They need coaching and leadership. And the things we're going to talk about cultural intelligence next are going to help you get there. So cultural intelligence, or CQ, is having the knowledge, skills, and ability to effectively and appropriately engage people from different cultural groups. Now that means I am Black with a Cape Verdean background. So that's how I have Fernandez. I have African Portuguese roots. So when you see me, somebody thinks I'm Dominican, or he must be from the Dominican Republic, or he looks Mexican. We're always putting people in boxes. And with cultural intelligence, you begin to understand and know how to talk to people and engage them in ways that doesn't turn them off. So there's a whole theory on this. The scholars up in Michigan and in Singapore all have these 9 mega skills and these 11 competencies, cultural clusters. Yeah, that's great, but we run restaurants. So MFHA boiled it down to 5 competencies that you can build. Just like you can learn how to cut onions with a knife, you start off slow and then you can get fast and really adept at it. The same is true with cultural intelligence. So self-awareness, how do I come across? How do people see me? How do I communicate across cultures, even if I don't speak the language? How important is body language? How do people do conflict? Italians do conflict one way, Chinese do conflict another way. And then how do you show empathy? Letting people know I'm trying to feel you. And then last, how do I give you coaching in a way that makes you able to move up the food chain? So there's 5 of them. I don't have time to go through all of them. I picked 2. Self-awareness, most important. Know thyself. How do you come across? I know I'm loud. So when I talk to young kids, I get on my knees and I talk more like a whisper, because otherwise I come across like this big boom voice, and it intimidates people. So how do you come across when you engage people from different cultural groups? Do you know your blind spots? Do you know what you don't know? I'm not good at finance, so I don't try to be good at finance. I am good at operations and at people. I know the Black community and I know the Asian community, but I don't know Asian Indian as well as I should. You have to find out where you are on that scale. And the second thing is how to become an authentic coach. How do you develop truthful and relevant interactions with people? How do you communicate and tell them, listen, John, if you want to move up and become a leader in this organization, you have to start acting like a more of a professional. You have to pull your pants up if you're a young kid and you think the SAG is cool. That's not how management looks. You have to clean up your English if your accent.
Oh, no, I don't do the casino. No.
Hello? Somebody just went on off mute. So about the casino, you need authentic coaching at the casino too. One of the things that you do with African Americans, particularly younger ones, you might say to them, hey, listen, Thomas, can I give you some feedback? Are you okay? Do I have your permission to give you some feedback? And then they're much more open to the conversation, but you need to give it to them direct and tell them, you know, what you're doing well and what you're not doing well, and how you can help them. Don't beat around the bush. Don't talk in generalities. Get very specific about things, and then make sure all of your interactions are respectful in nature. Now, this next slide, and I only have a few left, is really about MFHA's cultural engagement model. We developed this with SMU out of Dallas, and they had understood that their students from around the world were having difficulty connecting with the faculty. And when we worked with them, we found out there were 5 things that students wanted the faculty members to know about them. It's the same with people in the workforce. Where am I from? How do I see and experience the world? Understand my communication style. Be careful around myths and understand what my realities are, and then things that will shut me down. Again, 5 of them. I don't have time to go through all of them, so I've picked 2 that matter. Where a person's from, how you can refer to them, and how they self-identify is critically important. Don't confuse somebody in the Northeast because we're from the Northeast. I'm a Red Sox fan. I'm not a Yankee fan. Yeah, we're both from the Northeast, but New York ain't Massachusetts. And you do the same when you look at someone and think, you know, because they're Black, they must be African American. No, they could be from Africa. They could be a dark-skinned Dominican from the Dominican Republic. So pay attention to who they are, understand their cultural traits. Ask if you don't know. Hey, I'm trying to better understand how I can engage with you, how I can be a better leader, how I can do, we can achieve better outcomes. I didn't grow up around Latinos. I didn't grow up around Asians at all. You know, can you help me understand what I need to do better? What's your experience like working for the company? Are we giving you the support you need? Do you feel you're being discriminated against? All these kinds of questions, how you feeling, have been coming out since the pandemic. And good companies have been doing a listening tour. They go around, have these listening sessions and hear from their employees to find out what's working, what's not working. That's what those students were telling faculty. That's what your employees are telling you. Figure out who they are. Don't be touching a Black woman's hair. You don't have permission to do that. I travel with one of my staff all the time, and I'm shocked how many people come up and go, oh, I like your hair. They put their fingers in the hair because she wears it in a natural style. And one of the simplest things I learned, particularly with my Asian community, is experience my food, experience my culture. Don't tell me, oh, your food stinks. We don't want that. Sends the wrong message, doesn't build the trust. You can't build trust, you can't build teamwork. The second one is how I see and experience the world, how it impacts our work relationships. This one's particularly true of immigrants, thinking in multiple languages, okay? They have to think first in Spanish and then in English. I have friends who can only pray in Spanish, okay? So just think about that if you have to pray in one language and then speak in another. They also can't turn off their Blackness or their Latino-ness or their Asian-ness. You can't turn it off. You know, you take it with you every day. There are times we'd like to just be me and not have to worry about it, but an interaction with a store clerk or the interaction with a host that gives me the look, can I help you? As if I don't belong there, or a police officer who stops me for no reason, remind me of the package and the skin I'm in. So empathize with that. Try to understand. Native culture says never judge a person. They said a man, but I modified it to a person until you've walked 3 moons in their moccasins. So immigrants feel like they have to do more. They can't do enough to belong. You know, the Irish are in the club, the Germans are in the club, the Jews are in the club, but the Mexicans don't feel like they're in the club. And that's some of the other low income, the immigrants who've come here as refugees particularly feel that way. And then will you stick up for me? Will the boss take a stand and support me? Is it critically important, not only for your immigrant employees, but for your African-American employees and others across the board. So there are a few inclusive leadership traits I'm going to share with you, and then I'm going to wrap up and send you back to your next session. The Harvard Business Review published this about a year ago, and I believe these things to be very true. visible commitment of your support, care, and concern for the well-being of your employees. You just can't say, oh, we support women. What are you doing? What are you physically doing? Show me the evidence. And then are you humble, humility? You know, I really don't know enough about this. You know, I made some mistakes, you know. Me personally, Gerry Fernandez, when I was younger, I was a homophobe. I really was, because that's the way I was raised. That was the community I was around. But when I got education and realized how stupid that was, I changed my behavior, changed my thinking process. We should pass that on to the politicians that, you know what, sometimes you have to change your position and be willing to say it. Awareness of your blind spots, where you're biased, what things you don't know. Be constantly curious about other groups. Where are you from? What's it like there? What are your family traditions? What do you do in the community? What works? What lines up well with the American values and what doesn't? You constantly build your CQ so you know that not everybody who's Asian came from China. There's 36 Asian countries they could have come from, and then looking for ways to collaborate. So the last thing I'll say, and I'll summarize, is what leaders say and do. So that say to do ratio makes all the difference in the world. If you don't do what you say, people know that, and they know that they don't count. This sounds simple, but for some reason, it's a hard thing for us to do. In summary, we need to implement cultural and bias training. If you haven't done it, you haven't thought about it, you should. Once you know your blind spots, now you have a ability to go ahead and get around them. There's going to need to be policy changes, things that work against it, keep women out. Why can't we get gender equity, pay equity? It's because we don't have the will. These are things, some things are simply fixed. We got to practice inclusion. You know, it's just like going to the gym. You don't get good at overnight, like cutting onions in the kitchen or doing whatever you do. In your garden, you have to make mistakes. You have to practice. You got to engage the communities authentically, keep score. Most importantly, you need to be intentional. So folks, I hope everything was useful for you today. I know you've got to get back to your session. I want to thank Wendy for having us here, and Scott for the great work they're doing at Walk-Ons. I wish you all the best. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Gerry. That was very enlightening. I know for a lot of us, cultural intelligence is a new term, and we are constantly in the industry trying to improve and evolve. And this year has shown us a lot of ways in which we might want to do that. Please remember these sessions are being recorded and will be available on the website at www.lra.org should you wish to revisit any of the information presented. Gerry also has a handout that we will share on our website. Those of you who have attended the session today will be entered into a drawing for a collection of John Folse cookbooks valued at $240. The winner will be contacted via email by the end of the week. And again, I want to thank Walk-Ons and Scott Taylor and Gerry. Also, I want to let you guys know that Gerry has a podcast called A Seat at the Table. So if you're interested in learning more about these topics and others, as you increase your cultural intelligence, you can visit Multicultural Food Service and Hospitality Alliance online, and we'll be sharing that information as well in our LRA communications. Thank you so much.
Thank you.